The moment Samurai Jack fans have been waiting for is officially here. The end of Season 5, the final episode of Samurai Jack, the episode which will conclude the story of this epic time-traveling warrior. I am so conflicted about the final episode of Samurai Jack. There's no question in my mind that this episode was gorgeous, beautiful episode with some of the best imagery that I've seen from the series. Just the final image that you see from the entire series overall has got to be one of the most gorgeous things that I have ever seen. But the context of that ending is just so stark and realistic. And you know what's really funny about it? The second time that I watched it, it dawned on me. This season and this ending reminded me of a very popular anime series. One of my favorites of all time. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Gurren Lagann. For those of you who haven't seen Gurren Lagann, this is basically my personal endorsement right here. Check it out. It's awesome. But the fact of the matter is, the ending of Samurai Jack is damn near the same as Gurren Lagann's. Hell, the entire concept is eerily similar. Let me just draw a parallel for you. In the end of Samurai Jack, Jack is getting ready to have his final confrontation with Aku, the ultimate evil of the series, while at the same time also having to do battle with Ashi, who is the daughter of Aku. And ironically enough, he managed to fall in love with the daughter of one of his greatest enemies. Now, by the end of this week's episode, and I don't think I need to say spoiler warning at this point, because I'm going to talk about everything. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it before you watch the rest of this video. So, getting back on track here, by the end of this week's episode, Jack and Ashi realize that Ashi actually has the powers of Aku herself, and she's actually able to open up a time portal, which allows both her and Jack to go back to that time, right when Jack was sent back into the future, where Aku was at his weakest. Jack comes in, he kills Aku, it's freaking awesome and super epic, and the day is saved. Samurai Jack and Ashi are going to get married, they're going to start a family, and he's going to succeed his father to the throne. But on their wedding day, suddenly, out of nowhere, Ashi just falls over in her wedding dress and realizes that since they stopped Aku and he no longer exists and won't exist in the future, Ashi herself could also not exist. So she just disappears right there on the spot in Jack's arms. Ashi dies in this episode, or it's more accurate to say she is erased from all forms of existence. This scene is just like the end of Gurren Lagann. In fact, it's strikingly similar, with the main character of Simone, who's battling one of his great enemies. He falls in love with the daughter of his great enemy. They go through many hardships, they stop the greatest evils, and at the very end they plan on getting married, when suddenly his love disappears, no longer even having a chance to exist. There are different contextual things around it, like some of the details in Gurren Lagann, but for the most part, it's damn near the same ending, especially how it all ends with our main characters seemingly losing their loved ones and becoming hermits and going off into the wilderness and basically accepting their own fate and having to live with it. This series ending with Jack going to this incredibly beautiful tree where everything is really dark and somber, when suddenly this little ladybug comes over and flies onto his hand, which reminds him of Ashi. He has one good smile, and the camera starts to pan out, and you get to see that the sun is rising. The sun is going through the shadows, and it looks like Jack is just going to have to continue living and remembering all of the amazing things and times that he had with Ashi. It's a beautiful moment. It really is, but it's also not quite what I wanted. I really did want to see a happy ending for Jack, and it does suck to see that even though he does stop Aku, all of these amazing people that he's met, he's never going to see them again, and the one person that he actually fell in love with in the series cannot actually be with him. And it's also really strange that Ashi was able to live for a certain amount of time, but suddenly just disappeared on the wedding day. To me, that's a little strange. If Aku was immediately defeated, she should have immediately disappeared. It was almost like getting blue balls while sort of watching this episode. That's literally what it kind of felt like. And that's just a small part of the episode. This one right here is basically just a spectacle where we get to see a lot of classic characters return, some of which I thought were really great to see again, such as the 300 Spartans and my personal favorites, the dog archaeologists, such as Sir Rothschild, who is such a funny character, and I love that he basically looks the same, except now that he just has a scruffy beard. I especially love that Rob Paulsen returned to voice the character as well. Rob just keeps appearing in some amazing projects, and it makes me really glad that last year at MomoCon I got to interview him. I'm going to go see him at this MomoCon this year, and I'm going to tell him congratulations. He did a great job on the episode. Not to mention just cameos from just about every character you could imagine from the series. Even Monkey Man returned. It was great. Freaking the Scotsman and his daughters came in into the final battle of Aku, and we finally got a moment between Jack and the Scotsman, which was so great. It was really funny because the Scotsman, you know, despite the fact that he's dead, but not really dead quite yet because he's a ghost, just takes everything in stride, and it makes it really funny. In the scene where Jack actually sees him, he's just so shocked to actually just see him again in this state as a ghost. It's a really funny moment and adds a little bit of levity to this episode, which ultimately is just like a big giant battle with all of the people that Jack has helped in the past, even the Ravers fighting against Aku in this big massive battle. I especially loved how it all opened. The first part of the episode is basically just reaction shots from everybody waiting for this like big message from Aku. And I love that Aku opens up by actually like showing everyone the original intro to Samurai Jack, which is sort of like a full explanation of the series. But then he just comes in and says, "Nope, this is not happening actually. I'm about to kill Samurai Jack right here." And he's so conflicted because he's such a goofy villain that he's trying to decide how he's going to kill him. He wants to do it in a nice big flashy way, and there's a lot of funny sequences of him like transforming his hand into all of these implements of death, but he's never satisfied with the one that he wants. But he decides that the most poetic and disturbing way to take out Jack would be to have Ashi be the one to assassinate him, and that's where this big battle starts taking place. Right before she attacks, that's when all of these characters just start showing up, attacking Aku, and he goes outside and basically just makes mincemeat out of all of them. The fact that he can also create his very own personal army from his essence is also really crazy. We get a lot of little mini Akus who go around fighting against a lot of the characters. He even does this one attack which is incredibly devastating where he shoots his entire body up into the sky and transforms into this massive black cloud, which suddenly starts raining down all of these black shards, which are his body, destroying everything in its wake, until the Scotsman comes in playing his bagpipe to actually get rid of all of those attacks. It's such a great and well thought out sequence, and it's something that the creator of the series has always been really good at, is coming up with these really unique action scenes. But of course, most of the tension in this episode came from Jack actually battling Ashi, which is honestly, one of the reasons why I'm slightly disappointed by the finale. I wanted to see more of Jack actually going up against Aku, and in many senses he is, considering that she has all of his abilities. But it's basically just him fighting against Ashi, trying to get her to come back and get away from this evil force. And he actually manages to do this by confessing his love to her, which honestly was a very tender moment and made me just like jump out of my seat. It was a really triumphant moment for the character to finally acknowledge that he has fallen in love. And when they realize that she has the powers of Aku too, that's when you realize, oh shit, this is really about to happen. They travel back in time, Jack finds Aku and finishes him off in such a great way. Slicing, dicing, triple angles, sword right through the head. Aku is absorbed by the sword, he destroys his giant freaking tower, and that is the final battle with Aku. What more can I say? So, what's the rundown on the final episode of Samurai Jack? Like I said, I'm very conflicted with this one. I did like it, and I'm really glad that there is a conclusion to the series. Although I was expecting a much happier ending from the series, I didn't expect it to be anything like this. And while I did fear that Ashi was going to be killed, I didn't see it happening this way. I figured it was either going to be Jack maybe finishing her off accidentally because he has no choice, or it was Aku that was actually going to finish her off. It's made even more bittersweet by the fact that not only is she instrumental in defeating Aku, but because of that, she has to disappear herself. And that's another thing. Like, I never even really thought about it, but like him actually making these changes is going to completely affect the future of a lot of these people. And I'd really love to see what's going to happen now in this world where Aku never existed. I mean, there's still plenty of room for something to happen in this series. I mean, they could do something, you know, that happens after this, like maybe Jack's brand new journey after going through all of this turmoil. And that's the other thing. It's all the things that happen to Jack in the series have been leading up to this moment, and he's seemingly triumphant, and yet he doesn't really get much out of it aside from seeing his family again and being able to just be a free person in a world without Aku. But it's so sad because he can't be with Ashi, yet he's still reminded of her every single time he sees a ladybug, and it's just a constant reminder of the things that he's seen and the things that you have to deal with as a human being. It's pretty powerful stuff, to be perfectly honest. And like I said, that final shot where the camera is just pulling out and you see that beautiful tree, I love that. That's kind of the moment that sells the entire episode. There's this whole yin-yang effect to that tree, the way how it's all black and the limbs are all just sort of reaching out, almost sort of otherworldly-like, but they're all connected by these incredibly beautiful and bright flowers. It's the light, it's the darkness, it's the balance that you have to deal with, and that's exactly what Jack has had to learn in this entire series. It's what led to this moment. It's bittersweet, but it's absolutely beautiful, and definitely a showcase for one of the greatest, if not the greatest, American animations that I have ever seen. I'd say it's definitely in my top 5 favorite American animation by a long shot. And it's something that if you're even an enthusiast of the genre, you need to check out. If you're looking for a good story, I highly recommend the entire series. This is the episode that fans have been waiting for. It might not have been the episode that everyone was waiting for, and I'm definitely going to have to watch it a couple more times to sort of fully absorb it. But I am happy with it. I don't think it's a perfect finale, though. I'm not going to lie. I felt that it was just a bit rushed. The first half of the episode took a little too long in actually getting to the final battle, and I wanted to see more of Jack fighting against Aku and less of Jack fighting against Ashi. Although Ashi clearly was an incredibly important character in the final arc of the series, and arguably the most important side character from all of Samurai Jack, despite the fact that she only appeared in a 10-episode season at the end. But I'm just glad that the creator of the series was actually given an opportunity to do this. I had a feeling maybe he wanted to do more, maybe wanted to make the finale bigger, but maybe this is all that he was given, just a 10-episode opportunity to end the series. And in that regard, I think it did a great job. And now there's a definitive ending to the series, so it just feels more conclusive and a lot more satisfying now, knowing that you can watch the entire series from beginning to end and you know that you're going to get a full story. And if you didn't have an opportunity to see the series, I still highly recommend it. And next week is going to be your perfect chance. Adult Swim has announced that they're going to do a big marathon of every single episode. So I highly recommend going to the store, getting your favorite snacks, gathering some friends together, and jump around the tube and watch some amazing kick-ass cartoons. So, I liked this episode. Like I said, I don't think it was perfect, but I still think it was incredible from a visual standpoint, and there's a lot of imagery in this episode that I'm always going to remember. And if anything, it's just more Samurai Jack, which is always a good thing. I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5, and overall for the entire season, I want to give it a 5 out of 5, but I just didn't really like the way the entire thing ended. And it did sort of slow down a little bit in the middle of the series, but for the most part, this is a series that accomplished everything that it needed to do. It's a revival of an old show with brand new animation style techniques, and yet it still felt like the perfect continuation of Samurai Jack. It didn't feel foreign. It didn't feel like it was made by other hands. It was made by the people who cared about this story and wanted to present it to their fan base. And in that sense, I think it was a really big accomplishment. It had maybe some smaller issues, maybe some episodes didn't look as good as others, maybe some were a little slower, maybe some were way too intense, maybe some weren't intense enough and not taking advantage of its Adult Swim. Maybe the series didn't take advantage enough of the fact that it was an Adult Swim series and can get away with enough, but it didn't really want to abandon that made... But in that regard, But in that regard, I do like the fact that Samurai Jack didn't want to abandon its roots, where it came from, and what its actual styling is. If they'd have went too dark, maybe it would have been a completely different series and maybe not really melded well with the other one. This one really does feel like the next evolution of the series, and I think they did a great job with it. It was truly made for the fans. So, 4 out of 5 for this episode, 4 out of 5 for the whole season. It's a solid experience from beginning to end, and it absolutely is worth your time. What more can I say? Great series. I'm glad that it returned. I hope to see more classic revivals of some of my favorite series. I know that one of them that I really love is the original Batman animated series from the 90s, and apparently they're about to release like a brand new Batman Harley Quinn movie in the same style, like the Bruce Timm style stuff. So I hope to see more of stuff like that in the future, especially when they're done by the people who actually care about these projects, because they can do some really amazing things. So there it is. That's basically my endorsement for Season 5 of Samurai Jack, and it's pretty damn awesome. So there it is, guys. Thank you for joining me on this little journey. It's not too often that I talk about American shows or American animation, but this is a show that appealed to my childhood. It's something that I grew up watching, and I was really excited to see the conclusion and experience this amazing show with you guys. But I want to hear from you. Make sure to tell me what you thought about the final episode of Samurai Jack. Were you satisfied by the ending? Were you dissatisfied? Did you have any favorite scenes? If you could change the ending, what would you change? Do you want to see more Samurai Jack in the future? And if you do, what do you want to see? Thank you guys for watching all of these reviews. If you want to see the catalog of them, make sure to check out the channel. There's a whole playlist of my reviews of every single episode. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Samurai Jack and anime reviews related. Make sure to leave me a comment telling me what you thought about the episode. And remember, if you liked this video, maybe you could hit that like button. If you didn't like it, you could give it a thumbs down. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, stay dandy, baby.